What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about the challenge Double Agent episode 8. And so my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa. And this episode of the challenge, I feel like, was so. I said boring. Rachel, what did you say to describe it? Annoying? Like,
Yeah,
this episode of the
annoying.
challenge was not worth the hour of my life I spent watching it.
Yeah, honestly, I was sort of annoyed because there was so much buildup around okay, these big hitters, like we said last week, like CT, Darrell, Corey, Nam, nobody wants to throw them into elimination, which is honestly great strategy. Prevent them from getting their gold skull. You have those heavy hitters not wanting to go in. But then in this episode, you see Michi and Josh and all of these people they're like, oh, I don't want to go in now. And I'm like, yo, what what is happening? Why don't you want to go in? They're like, oh, I don't feel like it today. That's not how this works.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because when they were doing the group deliberation, Michi was like, "Well, I don't really want to go in this week," and then one of the vets was like, "Is that what we're doing now? Are we really just saying I don't want to go in this week and then respecting everyone's decision?" Like,
Yeah,
boy
it's like
they.
you should take the opportunity, go in, be a good sport, which is what ended up happening. But it's so many of the people, especially with the last gold skull this week for the men's side, want to go in, but they're being prevented from going in. So then to sit there and be like, yeah, bros, I don't want to go in today, it's sort of like a slap in the face.
Yeah, I just think it's so dumb to treat it like, especially because for the guys they only have one skull left, so to treat it like it's no big deal, just
Yeah, and I feel like the biggest takeaway for me this episode, because this was the last men's skull this week, I am wondering, and there's been some debate on this online, next men's elimination, whether it's next week, but next week is probably a girls' week, so 2 to 3 weeks from now, for Men's Day, is it the fact that you can only vote in one of the 5 guys who has a gold skull right now, or can you still vote in any of the men still there? So they could stick in CT versus Darrell, but then there is no net gain in skull. So one person still goes home and one person stays, but they don't get a skull. So you dwindle down the numbers, because I feel like if it's the fact that, okay, you can only put in the 5 guys that have skulls already, and then you only can put in one of the men who doesn't have a skull already, and then they have to verse at the next men's day, that's so crappy. Then there's no point to go in and get your skull early, because then you're just going to have to go in back to back to back and be targeted now.
yeah, either that or put in two guys who have skulls against each other, and then one of the skulls is freed up by
Mm-hmm.
the guy going home, I guess, would be the way it's done. But yeah, I just, this whole thing with the skulls, especially because the guys and girls skulls are so uneven, because I think the girls still have two free skulls, three free skulls, because Anissa has a skull, Cam has a skull. Are they the only two?
I think those are the only two.
Yeah, so it's so messed up because the ratio is all messed up, and I just, it just,
That was such a big sigh. But yeah, I if it's the way that you can only send in skulled people versus unskulled people, that is such a cheat, I feel like. And they should have said that at the beginning of this season, and they shouldn't drop it okay, next Men's Day, everyone, you're forced to put in either one of the 5 people with the skulls versus someone who doesn't have one, because it's then if you had the choice to go in, so if you're Fessy, why would you throw yourself in early? Because it wouldn't make any sense. But that's sort of not a good example, because I feel like Fessy won't get versed to go into an elimination. I feel like the people that are probably going to get challenged for their skulls first would be Josh and Devin, and then Kyle would be in the middle. But I feel like Leroy and Fessy are sort of safe for their skulls. If you could go against Josh or Devin, why would you go against Fessy and Leroy? That doesn't make any sense. So I feel like the big hitters, CT, Darrell, Nam, Corey, all those guys who don't have skulls yet, they would want to go in against those lower level, like less heavy hitter men who have skulls. So it's like if you were Josh and you knew that this was the last gold skull this week, why would Josh want to go in if like the next men's day he has to go in automatically because he's one of the 5 guys with the skull? Like that doesn't make any sense. But maybe Josh is more safe than Devin because Josh has the Big Brother alliance. But like if CT Darrell ever win a daily, like you're gonna try to get the house to throw in Josh or Devin.
Yeah, the whole thing, I feel like people didn't think about the strategy behind skulls beyond just, oh, I want to get a skull right now. They never thought about, like, oh, there's only 5 skulls. There's going to be more than 5 elimination weeks. Like, so I kind of wish that there was more strategy behind this whole skull thing, but it doesn't seem like there is really. And that's kind of sucky.
Yeah, or like maybe we're just not seeing it because like there is strategy of like keeping those heavy hitters out of the crater eliminations. So like yeah, you don't want CT Darrell in the final. Don't let them win the dailies. Don't let them get thrown into the crater, and then you're set. They'll get purged at the end. But like yeah, I don't know. I think it better be that like you can still vote in whoever you want into the crater for the men going into the next men's challenge. So it's like people who have the alliances, so like the Big Brother alliance, maybe that keeps Josh safe because people want to target him, but because like Casey, Fessy, Cam, all those people are like consistently in power, maybe Josh doesn't get thrown in because they're all friends, and then you throw in Darrell and CT against each other to get rid of one of them. Like that would be a lot more strategy than like, okay, because you got a skull early, you sort of screwed yourself over and now you get thrown in every single week back to back.
But I also feel like it's not very fair to, like, if you win an elimination and you just don't get a skull out of it. So
then that's like, why didn't you go in earlier? I guess we'll have to see. There's so many questions, right, with like the men's elims coming up, because I guess if you threw into non-skulled people, is that unfair? Like you won something but you don't win anything. You get to stay in the house.
Yeah, and it's like then the problem of being thrown into eliminations back to back to back kind of becomes a problem still, because it's like, oh, if we can throw in CT against whoever, as long as the other person doesn't have a skull, you can just keep on trying to get CT out and he'll never get his skull because he's not going against people who have skulls. So
yeah, I guess this is something, you know, TJ should have told us all in the rules. Where's the playbook? Because this is causing a lot of problems that is sort of hard to figure out when we don't know the rules. So it's like, how do you strategize around what we don't know? Sort of like Edge of Extinction and like fire tokens. So like that's sort of annoying there.
I think for me, the biggest annoyance is just that, like, the strategy, I'm not sure would be there even if we did know all the rules. So I don't know. Just this whole thing just frustrates me because it seems like some emphasis is put on like the wrong parts of the game. Like everything seems to be about like the daily challenges, because all of the alliances I feel like were made before you got into the game basically. And so it's really hard for newer people to make alliances. And yeah, I wish that we got to see more alliance building rather than just like the assumption that, oh, there's a Big Brother alliance, because people keep talking about the Big Brother alliance and I'm like, I've never seen the challenge before. I've never seen an episode of Big Brother. I didn't know this Big Brother alliance was a thing until like episode 3, and people are talking about it like it's this huge thing, and I'm like, I didn't even know this existed.
Yeah, imagine the people have never heard of Big Brother and they've only seen like the George Orwell books. So they're like, what the heck is a Big Brother alliance? Like, is it all fans of 1984?
Yeah, so that just made me upset, because I feel like it could be really interesting to see more of the social politics. Whereas right now, I feel like you only see social politics when they're fighting. So
yeah, so we start this episode with Leroy and Cam talking after Leroy won his gold skull last week. It was so freaking cute. They like celebrate, you know, the winners are in the house, which was so cute. And I thought we saw some interesting strategy here, like a small snippet, because Cam is basically saying, oh, we don't know if it's a women's day or a men's day coming up, but if it's a women's day, like for sure. So like we won't throw in Teresa this week, but the next time that we know for sure 100% that it's a women's day, like I want to throw in Teresa versus a hard hitter like Casey or Lolo to get Teresa out of the game. So I thought that was interesting considering like for the past few weeks, all of the people somehow knew, oh, it's a men's day or it's a women's day, and they just had that gut feeling. So it was cool to see someone verbalize like, yo, we don't know what like day it is, so we can't go through with our plan yet. So like, let's wait.
Yeah, and I think it's especially important because like we see what happens if you fail at I guess knowing who's gonna go home, because like Jay basically went home because he pissed off Cam, and Teresa is probably also going to go home because she pissed off Cam. So it's like it's cool to see that people are factoring that in, and it makes me like Cam even more because I feel like Cam is one of those players where she's genuinely a good all-around player, because she like obviously is killer Cam, but she also has that like strategy down, and I think that's really cool, especially compared to some players like Fessy or Josh, who they're like physical players but not actually able to do 8 times 9. So,
I
yeah.
agree. That's why like Cam is so cool because she's like one of the only players I feel like that we've actually heard strategy from. And like her and Kyle, we heard some strategy from Kyle this week also, which we'll get into. But like all the other people, we just like don't really hear from them. Maybe they're doing strategy behind the scenes that we just don't see. But like I think it's cool, especially in like Cam and Leroy's YouTube channel. They talk about like, oh yeah, this is what we were thinking at the time. So it's like nice to see, you know, some people are actually like thinking about the strategy and like verbalizing it. So like I thought that was cool to see in a confessional from Cam.
Yeah, just because I feel like for people like us who really enjoyed the strategy element of the game, like, yeah, it's cool to hear about it later, but it's also really cool to hear about it during the game rather than just like, oh, these people are mad at each other. So, yeah.
Speaking of people mad at each other, we start off the episode also with Lolo and Nam getting into another pickle. And so Lolo is realizing that, okay, the people aren't going to vote me into the crater. They don't want me to get my skull. So I'm like, okay, see, that's smart. That is like a good realization to have. CT had that realization last week in the after show when he was like, people are not trying to put me in kind of thing. And we see her and Nam fighting again. And CT basically interrupts them and is like, it would be scary if you guys actually like work together and won something and, you know, got your differences aside and could do something together. But we didn't see that happen.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because sometimes I feel like they use CT as kind of like a narrator or like a stand in for the people at home. Because I feel like a lot of times CT will say stuff that like people at home are thinking, which is interesting because there's no way that CT can like be the narrator in the sense that like production is not telling CT, like, okay, go interrupt that argument now. But yeah, I think that's interesting, especially because like Lolo and Nam, I feel like it's cool that as rookies they're getting like a pretty good storyline, because I feel like we don't always see rookies that like get a storyline, but they're having this whole thing about like their main problem is they can't work together. And I wonder if that's going to foreshadow something in the future for them. Like their eventual downfall is basically just going to be that they cannot get their shit together.
Yeah, like we said last week, Alyssa, I truly want to see if they're so pissed off at each other. Win a daily, throw yourselves into elimination, get one person to like either go home or one of you are going to win that elimination. And then you can pick a new partner because I feel like Lolo, you know, Olympic athlete, she's so beast at like challenges and like stuff. And like Nam also is super physical, but like they just haven't really had a good showing, I guess, in in challenges because they're together, and like in the daily challenge we saw Nam do really well, so it's like I want to see them separate, and then like hopefully if they don't ever get separated this season, like they can be invited back and then do a season where they're not together, because I feel like they could both thrive really well and like be bomb at challenges, win things, like do super well, go to a final and like win the whole show if they weren't paired together, because they just like cannot work together.
Yeah, which is kind of dumb, but I kind of liked that there was more partner politics in this episode where like CT kind of regretted his choice of Big T and partners. And yeah, that was cool because I like
Yeah.
seeing the partner politics.
Yeah, so that sort of goes into the daily challenge, which instead of a hall brawl, it's called an all brawl. So, like, that's not that quirky play on words, but like an all brawl. So they're basically mud pit wrestling, which I thought was cool for the first heat because they didn't really know what they were looking for. So like people were picking up rocks and like they didn't know it was like an X-shaped like little thingy that they were picking up. So I thought that was cool. We go into heat one, which was Anissa, Big T, Cam, Lolo, and Nani. I thought it was funny how the audience would just be like, oh, Cam has it, Nani has it, and like try to trick them out. So like people would get pummeled. I thought that was really funny. And then Nani is like screaming, like, oh my God, I found it. And then Cam wins that heat.
Yeah, I mean, someone, I think it was Kyle, said that like Nani, your reaction should not be to scream that you have it. You should try to like sneak and get it like by yourself. And that's kind of what we saw Nam do, where he got the relic, I guess they called it. It looked like a drone to me, but
It's
where
like
he
a
got
pole,
it,
an X-shaped pole.
where he got it, and then like no one else knew he had it until he was already like jumping out onto the bank. So I feel like that was definitely interesting. And then Teresa got it for the second girls heat, and someone watching on the shore was like, Teresa should never play poker because I knew that she had it the instant she found it. So yeah.
Yeah, and then Gabby won that heat after Teresa was like smiling in the water while holding it. That was pretty funny. And then the fourth heat, we have CT winning it, who also did the sort of like sneaky thing that Nam did, where he was pushing it with his feet. And then when Leroy came over, he like moved it off to the side where Leroy was like feeling. But also, I feel like no one is going to go up to CT because everyone is like low key scared of him and like try to take it from him. So, like, everyone was like minding their own business, which I thought was funny. But I thought this was a cool challenge. You know, you don't need to spend a ton of money on helicopters or like drones or semi trucks for a cool challenge. You know, I like these pretty basic challenges. And it really did remind me of like the Survivor wrestling challenges, which I feel like won't ever happen in Survivor anymore. But like, it reminded me of that. And I was like, oh, I love those challenges.
Yeah, I think it was cool also that like they all were kind of on equal footing. Like even the less physical players had a chance if they were able to like sneak about it. So that was cool. I think and then the way they did it was then the two girls who won had to go against each other because there were two heats for each of the genders. So the two girls who won had to go against each other and the two guys who won had to go against each other, right?
Yeah,
And
so
then
CT and Nam, and then Gabby versus Cam. CT versus Nam, that was a scary heat because both of those dudes are like pretty strong. So, like, that was a cool one. I always love to see, you know, the big people get in it on and like fight each other. And then it was Gabby versus Cam. So, CT and Cam win their second heats.
yeah, and then the third round, the mysterious third round, was the partners of each of the singular winners had to go against each other. So CT's partner Big T went against Cam, and then Cam's partner Kyle went against CT. And basically, what they had to do was both members of the partnership had to beat the other person. And so this created, I guess, I'm not sure I would say drama, but basically, CT was like, sorry, but Big T is never going to beat Cam. And so when Cam and Big T wrestled, obviously Cam won. And then when Kyle and CT wrestled, Kyle won on the first try. Even though TJ said if like CT had won, then they would have kept going and they would have had to wrestle again and again and again. And like CT didn't say that he had any strategy to like let Kyle win or anything, but I kind of wonder if that was what happened because CT was kind of pissed off and was like, I know that Big T is never going to win. So why do I have to keep wrestling Kyle over and over?
Yeah, it feels bad. CT said in the after show that like he sort of threw a fit here and like he didn't mean to like throw a super big fit, but it was because like he had in his brain that, okay, I'm going to win this one because it's a solo challenge. I don't have to rely on Big T, but I'm going to win and then I can throw myself into the crater this episode. So like to have that taken away by TJ saying, okay, Big T versus Cam, like you're going to keep fighting until, like you said, the two people from the same team win. Then he was just so like discouraged, which, feels bad for Big T having to stand there and like realize that she's the one person letting CT down in this challenge. But also like, yeah, I think in the after show also, CT basically says he let Kyle win because like there was no point to keep wrestling, because if Big T is never really going to win, and they said it in the episode, like unless Cam gives it to Big T, they're going to be out there all day because even if CT wins against Kyle, if your partner can't win against the other person, like you're just gonna be like wasting your energy. So I think it does make sense for CT to just like bite the bullet on this one. There's no point to like tire yourself out, keep on fighting in that mud pit, and potentially get hurt or like sick from the cold air or something. So I think it just makes sense to let Kyle win rather than keep on playing and keep losing every time.
Yeah. And I guess also like the more you wrestle, the more chance you have of getting hurt. So that's also probably not something you want to do because it's totally possible that like you then lose your chance to win in the future because you're hurt. So
Yeah, so Cam and Kyle win their double agent status, which is also very exciting. And I think another thing to note for this daily challenge was the fight between Anissa and Lolo. After the first heat, Lolo is really angry that Anissa choked her. And Anissa, I think she was smart for like not engaging with Lolo and not like fighting with Lolo right there. And then they talked about it like a few days later, while they were both like had time to process it and they were both calm. And so I thought that was good rather than like trying to like simmer down the situation right in the middle of the challenge. And I thought it was funny. Darrell is like, this ain't the Olympics. And I was like, yo, that's sort of true. I feel like Lolo is just so competitive because of the Olympics that like she's so stressed out about like something so trivial, which I guess it's because she wanted to win the daily to throw herself into the elimination. But also there's three more girls' skulls. Like Nam should be the one who's pissed off that he lost.
I mean, I think it is no matter the situation with the skulls or lack thereof, it's not fun to get choked. So I do think that Anissa insisting that she didn't do anything wrong was kind of because when you watch the playback, like she did have Lolo in a chokehold, even though Lolo didn't even have the relic. So like I can see being pissed off it's even if it wasn't necessarily about winning. Because I think that a lot of times TJ will like call out the guys for fighting dirty, but he won't do the same with the girls. So
Yeah, I guess it's sort of a thing like how much can you get away with? Like the Fessy Nelson hall brawl, like Fessy pulling Nelson's like hurt broken fingers. Like, okay, that's allowed. This kind of like choking, like pinning someone down, sort of allowed because TJ didn't call it or be like, stop doing that. And I guess I think, I don't know, in like previous seasons also like playing dirty like this is typically allowed and like people do it a lot. So I feel like that's where Anissa comes from because she's like a super vet, been on so many freaking seasons of this show that like that's more normal. I feel like that people play dirty in these physical challenges where they like want to hurt you. Like Tori said, like, oh yeah, on the semi truck challenge, like I want to break that girl's arm kind of thing. So I feel like the vets are more in that mindset of like, I'm going to hurt you today versus I feel like the rookies are more like, let's play fair.
yeah, and I mean, I think I definitely agree more with the rookies in the sense that like if you only win because you have someone in a chokehold, you didn't really win. So that's me at least.
Yeah, so we go into the after the daily challenge. We see Cam and Kyle talking about some strategy. Cam is saying that their friends, Josh and Nani, maybe want to go in against Michi and Amber. And so Kyle is like, no, I want to get rid of the people that double crossed me, aka Fessy. Like, I want to get revenge on him. And I was like, okay, Kyle, that's fun. That's really messy, but also what, Fessy against Michi? That doesn't really make much sense. And I think Kyle realizes that later. Like, why would I throw in Fessy against Michi? Because then you're just giving Fessy like another win kind of thing. It doesn't make sense. So I'm glad that Kyle went along with Cam's plan there.
Yeah, and I think also Cam had the right idea when she was like, that also just puts the entire Big Brother alliance on our back. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, if when Fessy does win, or when whoever does win, that means they're coming back into the house and you have to deal with them and they're being pissed off that you threw them in, especially
Yeah,
if it's someone who already has a skull. So you can't even be like, well, I was doing you a favor by giving you a skull. So
yeah, throwing Fessy in, you'd get Big Brother pissed, but throwing Josh in, then Big Brother is happy because you threw Josh in. And I think it does really make sense, especially Kyle says this in the after show when he realized, like, okay, throwing Josh in, then people that want gold skulls, like we said, the heavy hitters, CT, Darrell, Corey, those people will want to go against Josh and Devin, and they won't want to go against Kyle. And so I thought that was really cool strategy to see from Kyle being like, yo, I realize that maybe I'm in the middle of the pack of these gold skull people. People won't want to challenge Leroy and Fessy, so I need some more like weaker men in here to take their gold skulls from. So I thought that was smart from Kyle's side.
yeah, I thought so too. So it was, again, cool to see more of the strategy there.
So yeah, more of some strategy. We go into Amber B and Amber M getting into some drama. And I thought this was a little bit spicy. The fight of the Ambers. And I feel like with this season so far, we've been getting a lot of like foreshadowing. And so hopefully this foreshadows to like either them going in against each other or them like blowing up and having a huge fight next episode for like the Amber drama, because Amber B tells Kyle that she wants to vote in Amber M, but oh, Kyle, don't tell Amber M that I voted for her. But Amber M goes up to Kyle and is like, Kyle, tell me specifically who Amber B votes for. And we didn't see the fallout of that, but I feel like there's going to be some drama next week, the week after, between the Ambers, because you know Kyle is going to spill those beans.
Yeah, I feel like Kyle is almost obligated to spill the tea, especially because like it is only good for him if drama comes from that. So
Yeah, I
why
feel like I
wouldn't
don't
he?
why, yeah, 100%. Why wouldn't you? Especially because like it's other girls getting thrown in. Like Cam has her skull. Like just you've got three more women's skulls out there. You want other people to go in versus like maybe you getting thrown in again for someone to take Cam's skull. So it's like stir up the house, Kyle. I can't wait till he tells the people in like the Ambers about this next week.
Yeah, I also am really excited for that just because it's going to be so messy and it's going to be drama, but it's actually going to be drama related to the game rather than, again, I keep going back to that stupid math problem and how, like, people were so fired up about this math problem. So
100%. It's drama about friendships, loyalty, getting thrown into the crater. So it'll be strategic drama versus 8x9 drama. So we see Cam and Kyle in there being in the like little house that they go to, and they didn't show us anything. So even worse than the previous double agent status where like they just sat there for like a few minutes and didn't talk. This one, they talked and we didn't even get any hint of who was going to go in. They left us at a cliffhanger, which I guess was a little bit more exciting, but also I watched the episodes on Thursdays, so I already like knew who was getting thrown in because Reddit and YouTube spoiled it for me, which I was like trying to stay off because I didn't want to spoil it. So I knew who was going in. So like for them not to give us the strategy behind it, I was like, oh, sad.
yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of guessed because they cut to Amber and Michi's faces. So I was like, oh, it's probably going to be them because I didn't get spoiled, but I like kind of guessed. So
Yo, lucky you. Watching it on Saturday, to stay off, like literally at 10 p.m. East Coast time, once the episode finished airing, they uploaded the YouTube after show, and they were like, the title is like CT betrayed Kyle, and I was like, stop. It spoils me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really follow a lot of challenge related content, so that might be part of it. So,
yeah, I just gotta like block for Wednesdays and Thursdays before we watch the episode. So yeah, we go into the crater, and it's the same challenge that Anissa and Tori did. So it's asset destruction 2.0, but this time they have heavier bombs, and they have a 4x4 slide puzzle in there, which similar to Survivor, like on this channel, Alyssa and I have a video where we basically go through the algorithm of how to do a slide puzzle. It's a 3x3, but basically the same thing for a 4x4. So now if you're on the challenge, you need to practice your slide puzzles.
yeah, I thought it was funny because Michi kept looking over because Michi was the houseboat, and then Josh got put in by the double agents. But Michi kept looking over at at Josh's puzzle, and someone was basically like, Michi, it's a slide puzzle. It's not going to give you the answer to look over at him. And I was like, oh, that's so funny.
I thought that was so funny also because like maybe okay you can look to see like okay it's a skull, what kind of pattern are you trying to figure out? Maybe you were confused what you were trying to create, so you didn't know how to do the slide puzzle. But TJ said at the beginning like the puzzle is going to be like a board map for you. Yeah, a map for you to figure out where you throw your bombs at the like thing that you're throwing your bombs at, which like Josh and Michi just both did in here, because once Josh, he zipped through that slide puzzle, zipped through getting the bombs out of the crate, and then he just starts throwing the medicine balls at the wall, like, but missing, or he kept on hitting the like planks of wood in between the actual squares, and was just like, oh my gosh, this was such a hot mess challenge.
Yeah, and it was funny to see everyone laughing at Josh. I found that funny. But so
yeah, I'm like, they both, Michi just could not figure out that slide puzzle. Josh didn't realize that the slide puzzle was the key, the clue to figure out where you throw your balls at. And it was just like SMH, both of them, especially because I feel like if you didn't realize that the slide puzzle was the key, you could have just threw your balls like Teresa or like Anissa and Tori did. I like combined those two names there for their challenge. And then you just like process of elimination, you find the correct holes that actually break the wall. But he just kept on hitting those wood planks. So yeah, that was really funny. And I don't know. I feel it feels bad for Josh, like everyone laughing at him, but it was so cute to see after he won. Although he was like way too overexcited, it was cute to see him get his first win and like be so happy. Like out of 4 seasons, this is his first elimination win. So I was like, "Aw, that's really cute. Like, good job for you."
Yeah, and I felt kind of bad because he got his first elimination win against like a pretty easy to beat rookie. So it's not even like yes, it's a win, but I feel like people don't really respect him as much as they might have if he had like eliminated, I don't know, CT or someone. So I feel like Josh is still gonna like butt up against that reputation because it took him like basically a gimme win too.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Josh is still going to be like not respected in the house or like within the challenge fan base, because there was like memes going around like and people saying basically last week Leroy and Jay in their elimination, like those two people would probably have beaten anyone else in the house for that elimination that they did. But for this week's elimination with Josh and Michi, like these two people would probably lose against anyone else in the house for any elimination that they did. So I thought it was a sort of funny juxtaposition there. Like you have the two like quote unquote weakest dudes go against each other. But I guess it also makes sense because now everyone is going to go and want to go against Josh to steal the gold skull from him.
Yeah, so I feel bad for Josh because his elimination record is probably about to get worse again. So
he has his like 15 seconds of happiness before he realizes once he gets back to the house that everyone is going to target him next Men's Day, and then he's going to get pissed off and get in more fights, which like feels so sad, but like at least he had those 15 seconds of joy there.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see kind of the fallout next week because this week, like we said, was kind of disappointing. And so I hope that next week kind of makes up for it by being more interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for the next men's day to see like maybe Josh or Devin get thrown in and like the politicking there, or if people are smart and I think together and maybe be like, yo, let's save ourselves and protect the gold skull people and let's only throw in and like agree to only throw in the non-gold skull holders, which sort of ruins their plan if non-gold skull holders win the daily, so they have to win there also. But I think with the amount of people who are like friends, if you did have all the gold skull holders align like that, like you could do really well. But I feel like that won't happen because I think that's like too complicated.
And I think also there's a question of like, if someone in your alliance doesn't have a gold skull, are you going to go against the other gold skull winners so that you can give someone else in your alliance a gold skull? Because otherwise, people in your alliance aren't going to make it the final.
Yeah, and so the Amber drama, I'm excited next week. Excited for the next men's elimination. Maybe Teresa gets thrown in next week because Cam wants to get her out also. So I'm excited. And I think the girls' days are more fun sometimes than the guys' days, unless it's a
Yeah.
hall brawl. Then it's funner for the guys.
Yeah. So I'm excited for next week. You're excited for next week. Let us know in the comments down below if you guys are excited for next week. Were you as disappointed with this episode as we were, or was there something that you found redeemable about this whole thing? As always, we love to hear from you, and we'll see you guys